The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares trade mostly lower, taking a breather after Wall Street's recent rally. South Korea's Kospi is the only gainer in the region, while other major indexes are in the red. On the currency front, the Australian dollar strengthens against the US dollar, while the greenback weakens against most Asian currencies. In commodities, gold rises 0.3%, while oil prices edge lower. In crypto, Bitcoin ticks up 0.1%, and Ethereum gains 0.5%. Malacanang activates all concerned government agencies to quickly respond to areas affected by the magnitude 7.4 quake that struck Manay, Davao Oriental this morning. PBBM initially tagged the strength at magnitude 7.6, but eventually downgraded it. The epicenter was at 44 kilometers east of Manay, which is about 100 kilometers away from the capital, Mati. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says the Social Welfare Department is pre-positioning food and non-food items. The Health Department is also ready to provide medical assistance. The president assures the public that the government is working round the clock to ensure that help reaches everyone who needs it. The Energy Department now dealing with various disasters as earthquakes and typhoons take a toll on customers, resulting in blackouts and power interruptions. Paulo Barcelon reports on the latest. So, Paulo, what numbers do we have regarding the Davao earthquake?
The Department of Energy's Task Force on Energy Resiliency has just released its initial report and confirming that power generation in Mindanao has largely stabilized after several plants went offline automatically following a strong quake Friday morning. 3 power plants, the Malita Coal Plant Unit 2, Agus 1 Hydroelectric Power Plant, and Pulangi 4 Hydroelectric Power Plant temporarily shut down due to safety tripping, but have all since resumed operations. Meanwhile, the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines reported a total load drop of more than 730 megawatts at the height of the tremor. This includes several transmission lines, including those linking Davao, Toril, Nabunturan, and Asuncion. They remain offline as teams continue their damage assessment.
We still have to check kasi minsan sa distribution utilities, yung pag-assess nila, which is ongoing assessment, minsan may mga segment na affected. And minsan sa segments na affected, hindi siya distribution side. Meron pa siyang tinatawag na load side o doon mismo sa loob ng building or sa loob ng bahay may problema.
5 electric cooperatives were also affected, with Davao Oriental, Davao del Sur, and Northern Davao still reporting partial power interruptions. Private distribution utilities like Davao Light and Power Company also reported 10 substations tripping, though most are now being restored. As of noon, power transmission across most of Mindanao remains stable, according to the DOE and NGCP, while checks are still ongoing for downstream oil facilities and electric vehicle charging stations in the Davao region. Meanwhile, power facilities have incurred damage worth millions of pesos due to Tropical Cyclone Opong. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin says the Masbate Electric Cooperative suffered over 390 million pesos worth of damage and that over 67,000 customers are still without power, with full restoration eyed by the end of the month. The Ticao Island Electric Cooperative, meanwhile, reported close to 13 million pesos worth of damage. Most of Cebu, meanwhile, has had power restored following the recent magnitude 6.9 earthquake that hit the province last September 30, while landslides are holding off power restoration in a barangay in San Remigio. Mai.
Thank you for that report, Paulo Barcelon. Jesus Crispin Remulla buckles down to work as the new ombudsman. He plans to create a special division at the Saligan Bayan that will focus on the flood control cases. Elijah Bonzo joins us on the line to tell us more about the ombudsman's plans and priorities. Elijah, go ahead.
Mai, after 5 years, newly appointed Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Remulla is now planning to release a memorandum that would require government officials to disclose their SALNs to the public.
Public information na nga yun nahanap natin When we talk about transparency, let's go all the way.
Ombudsman Samuel Martires, a memorandum was issued that only allows the release of a SALN with the owner's permission. SALNs filed starting August 2020 are covered by this memorandum. According to the new Ombudsman, the new memorandum they plan to issue next week will reverse this existing provision and ensure that no governmental official will be spared. In addition, Remulla will also launch a crowdsourcing campaign to revive lifestyle checks under his administration. Mai.
Thank you for that report, Lyja Bonzo. House Speaker Faustino Boji D has asked the Justice Department to cancel the passport of former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldy Co following his resignation from Congress last month. D says he contacted then Justice Secretary and now Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Remulla to restrict Co's travel abroad amid ongoing investigations into alleged irregularities in public works projects. He explains that while the Foreign Affairs Department formally cancels passports, the House turns to the DOJ since it oversees the Bureau of Immigration and can speed up coordination. D adds that Co earlier informed the House he will travel to the U.S. for medical treatment, but reports now indicate he may be in Europe. He says if Co returns, his case will likely be handled by the DOJ or the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. Japan is now closely watching the Philippines' flood control corruption scandal, a controversy casting a shadow over billions in foreign-funded projects. A Japanese embassy official says no Japanese-funded infrastructure projects have been linked to the issue. Japan remains the country's largest official development assistance donor, supporting major projects like the Metro Manila subway. President Bongbong Marcos earlier revealed that some funds intended as the Philippine government's counterpart for ODA projects were allegedly diverted to budget insertions for 2025. In response, Japan is expressing support for the Philippines' anti-corruption efforts, reaffirming its commitment to ongoing infrastructure projects. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the private sector is closely watching the Independent Commission for Infrastructure's investigation into the flood control scandal. PCCI Chairman George Barcelon tells BNC's Business 360 they hope those guilty will be held accountable.
So we're concerned, and we hope that following what I heard earlier from Ambassador Pedro Moldes, that there must be a finality to this. When I say finality, it means that the people who are identified must be prosecuted, and whatever the results, whether they would be punished, and also the restitution of the money that they unlawfully gain.
We're taking a short break. More stories are coming up. You're watching Business Brief. Back on Business Brief, an advisory from the Highway Patrol Group catches electric vehicle owners off guard, sparking confusion and frustration across the community. The proposed rule, which would have required extra certification for EV owners, has since been clarified, but not before drawing strong criticism from stakeholders and lawmakers. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga reports.
Ridiculous move. That's the word from Business World motoring editor Cap Maceda Aguila, reacting to the recent issue involving electric vehicles in the Philippines. The buzz started when the PNP Highway Patrol Group released an advisory saying EV owners would now need to get a DOE certification to enjoy exemption from the number coding scheme. This raised eyebrows and stress levels among EV drivers. But before the outrage could build further, the HPG made a U-turn clarifying that the advisory actually targeted illegal users of green plates trying to dodge coding. Still, the damage was done. Confusion spread and concerns grew. In an interview with BNC Mobility, Aguila did not mince words, saying the whole thing, if it had pushed through, could have caused unnecessary hassle for EV users.
This is a classic case of the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. So, again, if we want to encourage increased EV ownership, then by all means, let's take a look at steps that will make it easier for people to get into the format.
Aguila also raised a bigger issue, something many Filipinos are all too familiar with.
This might be another avenue for corruption or bribery and whatnot. And these extra steps, I think, are sort of defeat the purpose in trying to remove red tape from government.
And so, the DOE stepped in. They quickly met with EV stakeholders to clear things up, followed by a sit-down with other agencies to revisit what the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act, or EVIDA, actually says. The bottom line, EVs are already exempt from coding for 8 years starting 2022, and that exemption stays in place until 2030. The DOE adds that the EV recognition guidelines were recently updated to better reflect the fast-growing range of EV models on Philippine roads. Even Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, who authored EVIDA, chimed in, saying there's no part of the law that allows the HPG to stop and inspect green-plated vehicles. Just like what Aguila pointed out, it's all sounding like unnecessary red tape. So instead of pulling over EVs, the HPG is urged to work more closely with agencies like the LTO to make sure things run smoothly. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
7 Philippine companies have made it to Forbes' World's Best Employers 2025 list. Returning honorees include San Miguel Corporation, Ayala Corporation, Metropolitan Bank and Trust Company, Land Bank of the Philippines, and LT Group. Joining them this year are BDO Unibank and Cebu Pacific, replacing Century Pacific Food and Alliance Global Group, which dropped off the list. Forbes based its rankings on anonymous surveys from over 300,000 employees worldwide, rating their companies on pay, career growth, work-life balance, and reputation. The Philippines ranks 66th out of 123 countries in the 2025 Global Hunger Index, placing it in the moderate category with a score of 13.4. The report shows that 3% of Filipinos are undernourished, while nearly 28% of children under 5 are stunted or too short for their age. About 5.4% of children are wasted, meaning they're too thin for their height, and 2.7% die before turning 5. The Global Hunger Index measures undernourishment, child stunting, wasting, and mortality to gauge a country's overall food security and nutrition levels. Tesla's full self-driving dream is facing a reality check after U.S. regulators found the system may have broken traffic laws. The U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is investigating nearly 3 million Tesla vehicles after more than 50 reports of cars running red lights, making illegal lane changes, and driving the wrong way. At least 14 crashes and 23 injuries have been recorded. The agency says Tesla's full self-driving feature, which still requires driver attention, induced vehicle behavior that violated traffic safety laws. This is a first step before a possible recall if the cars are deemed a safety risk. Tesla shares fell more than 2% in early trading after the news broke. The bigger picture, regulators around the world are drawing a line between driver assistance and true automation. Tesla's case could set a global precedent for how governments balance innovation with safety in the race towards self-driving tech. Chocolate prices are set to surge as global cocoa costs have more than doubled since early 2024, according to Wells Fargo's Agri-Food Institute. Prices have come down slightly from last year's peaks, but manufacturers are still passing on higher costs to consumers. Some are even resorting to shrinkflation, reducing portion sizes while keeping prices the same. The surge stems from supply disruptions in West Africa, which produces about 70% of the world's cocoa. Heavy rains and droughts devastated crops, pushing global output down 13%, the sharpest shortfall in 6 decades. New U.S. tariffs on suppliers like Ecuador, the Ivory Coast, and Ghana are adding to the pressure. Philippine shares end in negative territory for the second straight day as investors continue to digest the latest policy rate cut of the BSP. The PCCI falls 0.3% to close at 60.37, making it the 8th worst performer in Asia. Among the sectoral indices, only industrial ends in the green, with mining and oil falling the most at more than or almost 3%. Decliners outnumber advancers 97 to 79, with value turnover reaching 6.3 billion pesos. Week on week, the PCCI falls more than 1%. The day's most active stocks are mixed, with Apex Mining falling the most at almost 5%. Manila Electric Company rises the most at nearly 2%. On currencies, the peso trades at 58.28 against the US dollar, down from the previous close of 58.24. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again next week as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.